A luxurious home in Brentwood transformed into a double crime scene. Two beloved Hollywood figures discovered dead. And just hours later, police placed handcuffs on a suspect. But who was this suspect? A stranger, an acquaintance, or someone from within their own family? If you want to follow the verified developments of this case as they unfold in court, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any updates on this tragedy and other mysterious cases that continue to haunt America. On the afternoon of December 14, 2025, emergency responders arrived at a residence in Brentwood, Los Angeles, for what was described as a welfare check. What they discovered inside would send shockwaves through Hollywood and beyond. Rob Reiner, the acclaimed 78-year-old director and actor known for classics like When Harry Met Sally and The Princess Bride, and his wife Michelle Singer Reiner, a respected photographer and producer in her late 60s, were found deceased. According to official statements from the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office, both victims had suffered fatal stab wounds. The discovery was made by their daughter Romy, who had come to check on her parents. The scene she encountered that Sunday afternoon would forever alter the course of her family's story. Rob Reiner had built a legendary career spanning decades in Hollywood. From his early days as Michael "Meathead" Stivic on the groundbreaking sitcom All in the Family, to his evolution into one of America's most beloved directors, Reiner had left an indelible mark on American cinema and culture. His films captured the essence of human relationships, humor, and heartbreak with a sensitivity that resonated across generations. Michelle Singer Reiner, his partner of many years, had been not just his spouse, but his creative collaborator, a talented artist in her own right, whose work behind the camera had contributed to numerous projects. What made this tragedy particularly devastating was not simply the loss of two prominent figures in entertainment, but the allegations that would emerge about who was responsible. The suspect was not a stranger who had broken into their home, nor a random act of violence from the streets of Los Angeles. According to law enforcement and subsequent charges filed by prosecutors, the person accused of these killings was their own son. The events leading up to that fateful Sunday afternoon paint a complex picture that investigators would piece together in the hours and days following the discovery. On the evening of December 13, 2025, just one night before the bodies were found, there had been a holiday party hosted by comedian Conan O'Brien. Multiple media sources reported that Nick Reiner, 32 years old, and the son of Rob and Michelle attended this gathering. According to various accounts from the event, there was a tense argument between Nick and his father during the party. Witnesses described Nick's demeanor as withdrawn and his behavior as unusual, concerning enough that others in attendance noticed and worried about his state of mind. These reports, while widely circulated in press coverage, remain unverified details that have not been fully confirmed through official investigative channels. It is important to note that the existence of an argument, even if confirmed, does not establish motive or culpability. Only the evidence presented in court and the conclusions drawn by the justice system can determine what actually occurred and why. The following day, December 14, 2025, began like many Sunday afternoons in the affluent Brentwood neighborhood. But inside the Reiner residence, a tragedy had already unfolded. When emergency personnel arrived for the welfare check that afternoon, they discovered the bodies of both Rob and Michelle. The Los Angeles County coroner would later confirm that both victims had died from stab wounds inflicted with a knife. Critically, when police and emergency responders arrived at the scene, Nick Reiner was not present at the home. His absence from the residence where his parents lay deceased immediately raised questions for investigators. Where had he gone? When had he left? These questions would drive the initial hours of the investigation. The Los Angeles Police Department moved quickly. Within hours of discovering the bodies, law enforcement located and arrested Nick Reiner near the University of Southern California campus, not far from the Brentwood home where the crime had occurred. The speed of the arrest suggested that investigators had quickly developed probable cause to believe Nick was involved in his parents' deaths. On December 16, 2025, just 2 days after the discovery of the bodies, the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office announced formal charges against Nick Reiner. He was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. The charges included special circumstances allegations that significantly increased the severity of the case, multiple murders, and the personal use of a deadly weapon, specifically a knife. Under California law, these special circumstances meant that, if convicted, Nick could face life in prison without the possibility of parole or potentially the death penalty, depending on the prosecution's decisions and the outcome of trial proceedings. According to statements from Nick's legal representation, he was being held without bail and had not yet appeared at his scheduled arraignment because he had not received medical clearance. The nature of the medical issues preventing his court appearance was not publicly disclosed, but the delay suggested complications beyond a standard booking process. Understanding Nick Reiner's background became a central focus of media coverage in the aftermath of the arrests and charges. Multiple major news outlets reported that Nick had a documented history of substance abuse struggles and mental health challenges. These battles had not been entirely hidden from public view. In fact, Rob Reiner himself had explored themes related to his son's struggles in the 2010 film Being Charlie, a project that examined addiction and recovery through a deeply personal lens. The film told the story of a young man battling substance abuse while trying to navigate family expectations and his own demons. While the movie was fictional, many close to the Reiner family understood it to be influenced by real experiences within their household. Rob Reiner had spoken in interviews over the years about the challenges families face when a loved one struggles with addiction, though he typically maintained privacy about specific family details. However, it bears repeating that personal history, no matter how troubled, does not constitute evidence of criminal behavior. The presence of mental health issues or past substance abuse does not establish guilt in a homicide case. These are background details that may or may not be relevant to what occurred on December 14, 2025. Only the evidence examined in court, the testimony of witnesses, and the forensic findings presented to a jury can determine criminal responsibility. As of the time of this account, many crucial details about the case remain unknown to the public. The specific motive behind the alleged killings has not been officially disclosed by prosecutors or investigators. While media speculation has centered on family tensions, financial issues, or mental health crises, none of these theories have been confirmed through official channels. The exact sequence of events inside the Brentwood home that day remains largely unknown. Questions about where each person was located when the violence occurred, what words may have been exchanged, and what physical evidence was recovered from the scene have not been answered in public statements. These details will likely emerge during pre-trial proceedings, preliminary hearings, and potentially at trial if the case proceeds that far. The legal process ahead for Nick Reiner is lengthy and complex. Following his eventual arraignment, there will be preliminary hearings where a judge will determine if there is sufficient evidence to proceed to trial. Discovery will allow defense attorneys to review the prosecution's evidence. Motions may be filed challenging various aspects of the case. If the case does not result in a plea agreement, it will ultimately go before a jury who will hear all the evidence and determine guilt or innocence. For the Reiner family's other children and relatives, this tragedy represents an almost incomprehensible loss. Not only have they lost both parents in a violent and sudden manner, but they face the prospect of their brother being held responsible for those deaths. Romy Reiner, who discovered her parents' bodies, must now navigate a grief complicated by trauma and the public nature of her family's suffering. The Hollywood community that had celebrated Rob Reiner's contributions for decades found itself grappling with shock and sadness. Tributes poured in from fellow directors, actors, and industry professionals who had worked with Rob over his long career. Many spoke of his kindness, his creative vision, and his commitment to storytelling that meant something. Michelle's colleagues in photography and production similarly mourned the loss of a talented artist and generous collaborator. But beneath the public mourning lay difficult questions that this case forces us to confront. How do families navigate the challenges of mental illness and addiction? What systems exist to help families in crisis before tragedy strikes? When warning signs appear as they allegedly did at that holiday party just one night before the deaths, what interventions are possible or appropriate? These questions have no easy answers, and the Reiner case is not unique in raising them. Across America, families struggle with similar challenges, though usually without the glare of public attention. The intersection of mental health crises, family dynamics, and violence represents one of the most difficult issues facing our society. It is also crucial to remember that Nick Reiner, despite the serious charges against him, is entitled to the presumption of innocence under American law. He has the right to a vigorous defense to confront the evidence against him and to have his case decided by an impartial jury. The fact that prosecutors have filed charges, even serious charges, with special circumstances does not equate to a finding of guilt. Our justice system requires proof beyond a reasonable doubt, and that proof must be tested through the adversarial process of trial. As this case moves through the legal system, more information will inevitably become public. Forensic evidence will be analyzed and presented. Witness testimony will be given under oath. The defense will have the opportunity to challenge the prosecution's theory of the case and present alternative explanations. Only after this process is complete can any final conclusions be drawn about what happened in that Brentwood home on December 14, 2025. What remains beyond dispute is the profound loss. 2 lives ended violently. A family shattered in ways that can never be fully repaired. A community left grieving and searching for understanding. The legacy of Rob Reiner's artistic contributions will endure through the films and television that brought joy to millions. Michelle's creative work will remain as a testament to her talent, but the circumstances of their deaths will forever cast a shadow over those achievements. This case reminds us that fame and success offer no protection against family tragedy. It underscores the critical importance of mental health support and intervention. It demonstrates how quickly lives can change and how fragile our sense of security can be. Most importantly, it affirms that justice must be pursued with patience, diligence, and respect for the legal protections that safeguard us all. The principle that every person, regardless of the accusations against them, deserves a fair trial, and the presumption of innocence, is not merely a legal technicality. It is a cornerstone of a just society, a recognition that rush to judgment can lead to profound injustice. In cases like this, where emotions run high and the allegations are disturbing, maintaining that principle requires discipline and commitment to the rule of law. If you found this account informative and want to continue following verified developments in this case as they emerge from official court proceedings, please subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. Share your thoughts in the comments based on the facts presented, and join us as we continue to examine this case and other mysterious true crime stories that challenge our understanding of human nature and justice. Remember to base your opinions on evidence and respect the legal process that will ultimately determine the truth of what happened to Rob and Michelle Reiner.